Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tree Actions, the Human Forestry Podcast. And with me, as always, is my trusty counterpart, Tony Tressel. Morning, Tony. Afternoon.
Morning, everybody. Or afternoon, whatever it is. I don't know what it is.
And our guest today from beautiful North Carolina near Raleigh is Nora Bryan. Welcome to the show, Nora.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have this session with you. I've known you a long time, and your story is very interesting. And I'm not sure where we're going to end up in it, but like all our guests, we start with one question that everyone gets, the same one. And this is the question. If you would please share with us your first memory where, when you think back, the first thing that pops into your mind where you felt a connection to trees or a tree.
Well, I can do that. I guess I've been an outdoor person my whole life, but not specifically about trees. I just wanted to be out in nature, looking at things, little things, big things, run around in it. I never really got serious about it. I guess I wasn't a true nature nerd. Just like being outside, running around, climbing trees. We did have when I lived on when my family lived on Vancouver Island, my parents had 12 acres of bush, and we were just allowed to make paths, bushwhack on it, climb trees. We would climb these, I guess they were fir trees. We'd climb them. We could ladder climb them like a ladder.
Yeah.
We'd get to the top and we'd hold on to the branches and slide down the branch until we caught the next one all the way to the ground. In my mind, this was like 50 feet up, but I bet it was like 20.
Yeah.
But the real answer to your question, I was much older. I was in my early 30s, I think. And I went to a lecture at the Calgary Zoo. I was always going to their lectures because I just like nature stuff so much. And it was Dr. Alex Shigo.
Ah.
And I didn't know who he was, but I went, wow, this sounds interesting. And I just bought a house and I had some trees in it. I thought, I want to learn more about my trees and how I should take care of them now that I'm a responsible homeowner. And I'll just say that, you know how sometimes you go to a talk and you go, that was great, I loved it? This was more than that. This was transformational. I walked out of that talk for homeowners with a whole different relationship to trees. And he talked about the trees in a way that I don't know if I would have come across that any other place. He also showed really interesting footage of arborists climbing, and I'm like, wow, I wish I wasn't this god awful old person at 30 something and I could do that for a living instead. I didn't know that a decade would go by and that I would actually be doing that stuff.
Yeah. Wow. So that would have been in the 80s, then you said, right?
Yeah.
85? Maybe 88? 89?
Probably 88.
I remember
88 or 89.
I was brand new in the industry and I was just starting in the tree division, and everyone was going, well, the bosses were going to this talk and they were raving about it. And my teacher from college had taught what, like, Anita talked about him. And so I had him on a pedestal of sorts. He was this person and he was there, but I had to work. Nobody else, like, I couldn't go
Oh,
because,
so you know the talk I was talking about.
well, it might have been what he did a couple things because he also did one of his bio labs at the college that same time. Like, he would do a few different things when he would come to town and go to places that people would, you know, extract as much out of him as possible, kind of thing, right? Like often happens when you go speak somewhere. And
Yeah.
and it might have been that talk. I just remember being very upset that I couldn't go see him. And I know it was 80, that was in 89. I may have come back more than once, but you
That was
mentioned
about right.
he was absolutely, I think the word that I hear most often associated with people's first experience or anytime listening to Alex speak, Dr. Shigo, is evangelistic.
Well, he converted me.
Yeah. Yeah. his passion was undeniable, and I count myself fortunate to have become one of his friends and I got to spend a lot of personal time with them, and I really cherish that. Um, and unfortunately, we didn't start a podcast before we could have him on the show, but we were lucky enough to get Judy on the show, his daughter,
Right.
and you can take that in. So 10 years pass,
Yeah.
and that's I think kind of when I sort of met you. You know, I I knew of you because of your column in the paper.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah,
Oh, okay.
because you would sometimes write things like our customers would read your writings about pests in particular. It was about insects usually.
Yeah, I had a
And they would ask
specific.
me about, is this accurate or is this, they would reference your article in regards to a treatment like for birch leaf miner or something like that. And so when you showed up at a course, it was kind of like, whoa, because it was outside of the scope of how I knew you, sort of thing.
I didn't know you knew me from my writing. I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought it was pretty cool too that you had this columnist, garden columnist kind of person. That's what I thought you were. That was now taking a tree climbing course. It was like, what the heck? And no, yeah, you were working at a tree care company, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
Well,
even
there.
more so, you're like, I just wanted to get out and do stuff.
Well, it happened. I was writing more. I was started writing with the Hort Society, and I was sort of a gardener, backyard gardener, and I liked writing and I liked learning and studying. And I started writing for the Hort Society, and that got me a couple of books to write with
Yeah,
the regional publisher. They were looking for authors. I did one on bugs, and I co-authorized another one about how you can make your garden look cool in winter. And I did this gardening column for the Calgary Herald also for 10 years. So I guess I got known as a writer of it in
yeah,
the
yeah,
local. I also wrote for um, some regional gardening magazines. So I had a lot of writing. And one of the fun things I did was Q&A for the Hort Society. And I'd get people asking questions
yeah.
from all over North America. And it was one of my most fun things to do. And I realized that 80% of my questions were about trees. I thought, huh, you know what? I know about trees like by reading, and the Alex Shigo talk was never far from my mind, and I had bought and read his books. So I felt like I knew something about trees, but I also felt like I didn't know anything about trees because I didn't work with them.
Right.
So I called up Robin Adair and said, geez, Robin, you know, I do a lot of writing, but I feel like a bit of a fraud coming when it comes to trees because I kind of know about them, but I don't work with them, and I just don't feel it's not really legit. Can I work with you for a few months, maybe a couple days a week, just so I can get the feel for it and what it's really like? And he said, sure, sure. And I never thought I'd hear from him again. A few months later, in the dead of winter, he goes, still interested in that job? And I went, sure. So I started working a couple days a week, and I liked it so much I added days until I was working full time. And I said, I think I want to be an arborist now at this stupid age. Well, I was 45 when I started it, so you can figure out how old I am. I was 45 when I decided that I think I would like to be an arborist and do the things arborists do, and chainsaws and climbing, and that would be fun. And I thought back to that Shigo lecture, and damn, why am I doing this now? I don't know, but it's what I want.
Yeah.
And it was a good company, and I really liked my colleagues at it. I'm still friends with them,
Yeah.
and I just decided that's what I wanted to do for a living,
Yep. Yeah.
and I've been doing it ever since.
I remember I believe the first class was a climbing class, and then you were at a chainsaw class,
Yep,
and I think you were at another chainsaw class. I think you did two, but
I did two with you. The first one was at the zoo,
yeah,
and the other one was probably somewhere near Olds College, the
okay,
chainsaw one. Then another one with John Ransom,
okay,
not you, and
yeah,
that was climbing with spikes and stuff.
Okay, yeah, spurs, yeah, and
And I just loved them. I
rigging.
just had so much fun.
And I remember your passion, thinking, man, you should. And we ended up started talking about competitions, and I just encouraged you. I said, you should just go. You'll learn so much and have fun. And lo and behold, there you were. All of a sudden, you showed up
Yep,
to a comp. And not
yep.
only that, then you made the Masters in that huge cottonwood in Winnipeg. And I'm watching you going, I can't, this is unbelievable. Like, look at her. It was a tough tree and you got in the thing.
I didn't think I was going to get in it. I'd only ever shot a big shot once in my life before. I knew the place it was going to hit wasn't going to get me anywhere, but I just wanted to get in the tree. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I hit it like on my first, might have been my first shot, and I was like, okay, good enough. I'm
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
And it was a 70-foot damn footlock.
Yeah. I remember. And then you started showing up at others, and I can't remember when I saw you at a US event. I think was it North Americans?
No, it's probably Cincinnati,
Okay.
Kentucky. It was the Kentucky one.
That's right.
I think I didn't do so well. I didn't do as good as I did in the prairie. That was, the one in Winnipeg. That was my most favorite time I've ever had as a grown up with my clothes on, bar none. I didn't know what I was. I studied the book and I practiced footlocking every weekend and throw line every weekend on the tallest tree I could find, which would only get me up to 35 feet. I thought, well, it's the best I got.
Yeah.
So I worked at it, and I thought, I just want to finish the footlock and I want a clue. Well, and then I rolled up, and the first thing that happened was Dave Luke shoved a beer in my face and said, welcome. I went, damn, I'm going to have fun here. I know I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then it went pretty fast from there, didn't it? Like, your journey into where you are today. Like, it seems like to me, the next thing I know, you were in North Carolina almost, or was it? Yeah, or Kentucky first? No, Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina.
Yeah.
About that time, 2011, I knew that I wanted to go as far into this profession as I could do. And I thought, I was looking for a change. And I thought, I want to go where the trees are bigger.
Yeah.
And not West Coast trees necessarily, but big broadleaf trees. Like that damn poplar.
Yeah.
So, one thing and another, I met my future husband who's here in North Carolina. He's an arborist. And I decided I wanted to come down and see what it was like to climb those trees. I came down, stayed for a couple of months, and then I figured out how I could come back.
Yeah.
And we eventually got married, and I've been here ever since. So I've been here about 12 years.
Yeah.
Is it longer than that? 2012. Well, yeah, 13 years or something.
Well, I'd like to ask a question, and it's a personal question, and it's okay if you don't want to, and this isn't recorded live, so we can edit. I remember seeing you. You came to more than one comp, right? Did you not? Or
Yes.
yeah. And I remember it was the second one, I believe. And I asked about why, like, you were always alone, right? And I knew you were married, but you were alone. And I was like, what, like, doesn't your husband want to come and watch or be? And I remember your reply, and it was, it was just basically he thinks I'm in a midlife crisis and I'm crazy and he wants nothing to do with it and he doesn't support me at all, kind of thing is what I recall of it.
It was
And
more like that.
I was like, wow. And I got the strong impression that that relationship may be not to be continued, and then next thing I'd kind of know, not that many, a year maybe or two, not even, you're in the Carolinas, and then I knew you started dating Chip, and it was like, holy mackerel, like you've really transformed your life. And like, can you walk us through? And this is for the sake of people out there in that find themselves in maybe stagnant situations or unhealthy situations that they don't know how to escape from. Because I feel like you're quite a success story in that because you pursued your own passions and dreams and didn't let something or someone else hold you back.
Yeah, that was a big one. It was before that. It was a while before that where I knew I was going to make a change. I didn't know when, but I knew I was going to eventually do that. I'm a fairly loyal person, actually, so it takes a lot to shift me. But when I've made up my mind, I usually make a plan. It was Yeah, I made a plan. There are a lot of steps in that plan, and I got myself to North Carolina. I wasn't actually sure at first where I was going to go. I knew it was east because I have family in the Ottawa area.
Okay.
So I thought I might end up in Ontario, but I might also go somewhere else. Honestly, I was tired of winter. I
Right.
wanted somewhere warm.
Makes sense.
That was another motivating factor. I thought, I wonder if I could I could be warm.
Well,
I actually don't mind
when you
winter. I
finally
just don't like it to be 6 months long.
yeah, when you finally give way to a change, at least this has been my experience. And then if once you allow yourself that and you begin to plan it, then you can also get excited about opportunities or options, right? That really were not available to you in another situation because you're committed to another place, person, thing, and all the rest of it. Whereas once you allow yourself to step away from that, it's like, wow, what the heck? Why Ottawa? Why not somewhere warm?
Hmm.
More possibilities. But um, you know, is there any encouragement or advice you would give someone that might be find themselves potentially in a situation, trapped, feeling, or whatever? How do you make come to decide or come to believe that you have to make a change?
Boy,
I know.
I don't know. I'm somebody who does things for long periods of time, so I don't actually make a lot of changes. I don't anticipate that I'm going to make a lot of changes,
Right.
but I would say be somewhat realistic, but don't stifle yourself either. And have some plans. Honestly, I don't know what it was that made me. I really felt though that arboriculture is my third career, and the Shigo talk was an influencing factor. And having had the opportunity to do tree work just made me want to do it more. I was in touch with a lot of people in the industry that time on social media.
Yeah.
Tree buzz, I was big on tree buzz. I was all over
Okay.
that thing.
Yeah.
And social media, I wasn't on social media before 2010, and I just met so many people. And I think I just saw the possibilities.
Right.
And I had met Chip, and we got along great. And I thought, just came together that way.
Yeah.
I
It's
went to
awesome.
visit him, and down here in the Piedmont of North Carolina, well, the mountains has bigger trees, but the Piedmont area of North Carolina has some of the tallest urban canopy that's not on the West Coast.
Okay.
The oaks, particularly the oaks, but other trees too. And I was a little bit intimidated, shall we say? Like, holy crap, these are some trees here. Oh well, this is what I said I wanted to do, right?
And heavy, dense hardwood too, like as far as pruning and moving branches and even cutting and chucking, like it's a different it's different. It's
You're. I remember one person once saying, "How come you never rig anything?" And I'm like, "I don't have to. I can cut and chuck everything." And once you get to where the big trees are, you're nearly always rigging everything. It's like, okay, yep. So
Yep.
I was really, the first 5 years, Chip and I worked together. And he's a third career arborist too. The
Oh
weird
wow.
thing is, we're about the same age, and we both had other careers, and we both, at some stupid age, decided we were going to do tree work for a living. He'd been down to NOLA to help with the Hurricane Katrina ongoing efforts and got a lot of experience with that. And sort of decided that he was just going to be his own arborist and worked with some other people, but mostly on his own. And I came down to be his other arborist, climbing the big trees.
So how did that? How did you meet at a competition or?
Online at first, but we agreed to meet at a competition.
Okay.
That was this one in Cincinnati.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. So your first, your the evolution for you with climbing, Nora. Like I mean, you took basic tree climbing and learned with probably some of our gear and equipment, and you climbed at Robin. But I mean, I follow you on social and so on, and like your climbing skill obviously has improved dramatically. Not only that, but the range of equipment. How do you describe your journey into and where are you climbing? From where you were climbing when you first started to where you're using today. Can you talk with us a little bit about that?
Okay, well, I got started with some shared borrowed equipment using a Blake's hitch tied to the tail of my own rope, like we all did. Because the trees weren't normally enormous, we would normally just rope and lanyard our way up to where we needed to be. So
Yeah,
we weren't using a lot of throw line. Typically, we'd put a ladder up, hike up, rope
yeah,
and lanyard our way to where we wanted, and then get somebody to take the ladder away. And I just enjoyed the hell out of myself. I remember going back to the first tree I climbed. It was a birch tree where I climbed it myself and got my climbing gear organized. And I went back a couple of years later thinking, and that thing was only about 25 feet tall. But in my imagination, I was way up there.
yeah. And then so now did you grow into SRT or?
Yes, it became obvious to me as soon as I got here and saw the equipment that Chip had that I wasn't going to be 70-foot foot locking trees anytime again. So Chip immediately got me into SRT on the original ZK1 rope wrench,
Mm,
the floppy one before it had a stiff tether. I still have it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then we quickly got the one with stiff tether that's still like, I guess it's still an industry standard, and climbed on that. And I thought, Jesus, it's a good thing that we have this new kind of climbing, because I don't think I'd have much of a career if I had to footlock trees
right.
here.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But like, so did you were straight like with the foot ascender and the knee ascender and the
foot ascender, knee ascender. I tried a few different combinations, and I like to have the Haas knee ascender or something like it,
yeah,
and a foot ascender. And I still use my original Dirty 30 rope runner that Kevin Bingham made. I decided to go bleeding edge on the rope runner, and I have my original one that he made. Still
wow,
use it.
yeah,
Um, yeah, because really, if you're in reasonably good shape, you can. You don't have to be super young or super strong to be able to get up the rope using that system. You have to be,
right.
relatively in shape, but you don't have to be like, you don't have to like get yourself ripped at the gym to do it. I can do
No.
it.
Yeah.
But I also learned after I got here that climbing up the rope was the least of it.
Mhm.
And when I help train or instruct newer climbers, because we hire a lot of new people at Leaf and Limb where I work now. We hire a lot of new people. And it's not the climb up the tree. I call the climb up the rope just the last part of your commute to the job site. It's what you do when you get there that's actually going to take the time. And what you have to work on is your work position. You
Yeah.
have to learn how to get where you need to go and be stable and hands free. And that is the hardest part.
Yeah.
And then after that, I tell them, you don't have to be super fast. You have to be organized. Almost all the wasted time isn't being slow, it's poor rope management.
Right.
I think it's rope management. And I tell our new climbers, yeah, you can climb up that fast if you want. But if you look at the people who are really skilled and better than me, it's rope management. They know where those ropes are going and they don't screw them up.
Yeah. And are you finding? Do you find you mix it all between? Like I know a lot of guys will use uh, MRS versus SRS. SRS for ascent, and then some MRS for moving in the tree. But some people use exclusively SRS. Are you? Where are you on in that camp?
Oh boy. Well, I will sometimes. I will always climb static rope, single rope, if I can't just kid climb a tree and climb to where I want, which is usually the case. I mean, you're usually substantially off the ground here.
Right.
You don't have. I mean, there are smaller trees, but really, you're usually off the ground enough that you're using a throw line to get where you need to go. And I would say a 60 to 90-foot tie-in is probably pretty typical.
Okay. Wow.
And oh, I'm getting distracted again. What was the actual question?
Um, you
Oh
switching
yeah,
or
no, yeah.
work positioning. You were talking about work positioning and rope management. And I wondered how you compare, or if you ever alternate sometimes for that reason. Because I know some people find SRS or MRS moving rope in the tree a little bit more efficient from working the tree, especially if you're going in and out of limbs a lot.
Yeah, I tend to stay on the single rope when I'm doing it, and sometimes I regret that because it's hard getting back sometimes.
Yeah.
But I usually stay on it. But I will, um, since I'm using my rope runner, I will also use that for BRT. I mean, even though it's not
Sure.
necessary, I'll still use it for that.
Sure. Sure.
And if I'm climbing BRT, the only difference is I'm clipping into myself instead of
Yep.
on the tree. So I will switch back and forth if I have done that where I've climbed it and I've gone up there and I went, you know what? I really would rather just do double rope on this one and I'll just take the end and clip to myself and voila, now I'm on double rope.
Right.
So
So are you
I
usually
usually
canopy
can't.
anchoring? If you're usually canopy anchoring, then
Ah, my philosophy is that I think that the default situation, a cinched canopy anchor, is your best default choice. I'll use a base anchor if I know that it's going to be a royal pain in the ass to isolate
right.
and I might waste a lot of time, or I need to, say, pre-direct, where I have to be out on something I don't 100% love, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I can get over something sturdy on the trunk and then over something else further out that maybe I don't love, but it's good enough. So I'll do that pre-direct maybe, and then I like to be hanging out directly over what I want to climb because, at my age, I'm not as athletic as the young people. And I'll tell you what, your balance doesn't get better the older you get. It sure doesn't. Eyesight doesn't get, none of it gets better except your experience.
Right.
I'm a better climber as in that I know what I'm doing and how I want to do it, and I have a lot of physical tools and mental tools. So I'll have a good plan and I'll get it done, but I'm not as strong and as fast as I was when I was young, obviously.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. What do you think, Tony? The balance, eyesight versus experience and treachery.
Yeah, like I said, I think what affects me from a physical standpoint is my eyesight the most now. Like I don't like to like I got to wear glasses now, prescription glasses when I prove trees in the winter because I can't see the buds anymore. But that's just that's fine too. But yeah, I think it just you learn how to work smarter, to use a way overused phrase, I think. And it's all I when I do climbing training, I always tell people, good climbers 1-2 steps ahead of yourselves. A great climber is about 9 steps. And it doesn't mean that you're going to take every step exactly in that order, but you're thinking 9 steps ahead of yourself. And that just comes with time. There's no way to teach necessarily
No, there
teach
isn't.
that. Yeah.
I just tell the new climbers that too. I said, don't beat yourself up either. Just steady,
Right.
steady and think.
I tell young climbers to beat themselves up because they won't believe me until they do.
Well, they do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, you know what? You're just going to overcome it with brute force and stupidity. I'm just going to be over here working a little bit.
I'll let them do it too if I don't think that if they're not going to hurt themselves or damage a tree or property.
Right.
I'll say, I think you want to do it this way. And they go, no, I got it. And I go, knock yourself out, bud. And I say, do you understand? When they come down after having beaten themselves up, I go, do you understand why I suggested this? Sometimes it's like, yeah. Sometimes they're too new and they go, I don't understand why it was so hard. And then I'll say, well, what I was trying to get you to do was this. And they'll go, oh, okay, I get it. Because sometimes, like, when you're new, you can't really understand what people are trying to tell you because you become hyper focused when you're new at it. You just kind of have this tunnel thought. It took some years for me to get away from one thing at a time in a tree and to be able to just assess and not be so hyper focused on what was right in front of me. And I think new people, it's all new for them. Even just having a firm place to stand or hang out is sometimes a challenge, and they don't have time for anything but that.
Yeah, I think there's an aspect too of like because I can remember growing up with tree work and then climbing. Like I just felt like I was discovering everything. Like I was inventing all this shit. Like I was the first person to ever do it. And if somebody told me that you're not the first person to ever do this, I wouldn't believe them. Right. So there was that. I was kind of like the explorer, and I now know that it's like I see it in trainings all the time. Climber will come up and say, "Hey, check out," and I'm like, "Dude, we tried that." 1989, 2000, like 1990. It was okay. You're welcome to keep going at it if you like. And they're like, no way. I'm like, yeah. It's just everything that's old becomes new again. And it's not to criticize the new climbers. It just, I lost that. It took me a while to gain that perspective back. And I saw myself do it when I was a younger climber, because it was all like, you could use a ring to tie off. Like, I'm the first person to ever do this. Like, nah, they've been doing that for a while. I just, I'm just first time I saw it, so, and it was hard for me to believe, that too. So I think sometimes letting them beat their head against the wall a little bit is, like I said, as long as it's not a safety issue or a tree health issue, it's like, go ahead, beat your head against the wall. That's how I learned. Just beat it until the wall don't break or your head breaks, one of the two.
Yeah. One of the cool things about this industry, though, is that we do have a lot of latitude to even invent for ourselves, even if we're not the first one to invent for ourselves, to actually think and engineer stuff for ourselves. Sometimes it's not wise, but people are always doing it. I mean,
oh yeah,
the tools we have come from arborists directly, guys like Kevin Bingham and other guys even before that.
Yeah.
And guys since then.
Well, and then and then also a lot of adaptations. Like I think, Kevin in his inventions, I think represent an evolution of sorts, because I mean, well, in my limited experience, or I'm certainly not. There's many with many more years, and I would defer to Don Blair on this. Would probably be the person I know that has some of the most, but to my knowledge, is some of the Hobbs devices, like the blocks and the Hobbs lowering device, was some of the first equipment or hardware that was ever built specifically for tree work. So much of what we've used was adapted from another discipline, like of some sort. Like I think of the Grion, like, or the Grigri, right? The Grion came out of arborists saying, "Hey, this makes a cool lanyard." Yeah, it kind of creeps and slides a bit, but because it has a spring in it, but it works. And Petzl going, "Whoa, whoa, hey," and they modified the gris and made the grillon, right? Because arborists were using it in a completely different application, and I don't think anybody else was other than arborists. And there you have now a modification of an original tool made to be a lanyard, and that's evolved into the zillion, of course, and the zigzag, and but that's another example where we're seeing rope devices, hitch devices, mechanical hitches that didn't exist, really before. The wrench was one of the first mechanical type things built for, and you go to the hitch climber pulley, a pulley made to tend hitches. It
Yeah.
wasn't, prior to that, it was the CMI that was just a pulley that, with a dog leash clip that was adapted to push a hitch, right? So it was still a borrowing. It wasn't a specific design for. And, Kevin with the rope run and the wrench certainly has. And you know what else I think is that he had it, tested and engineered and built. Not like he started. Everything has to start with a prototype and a homemade version, but it's really gained momentum in becoming a manufactured device at a manufacturer. That's
Yes.
one of the key. That's part of that evolution that I think now is accepted. There's a lot of pains with the wrench, with the tree climbing comps and so on, that because until you had that in place, and now you don't see as much inventions skipping that step anymore, so to speak. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Well, I think a lot of manufacturers are in on it now.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the one that Tom Dunlap was using well before most people even started?
You're talking the
using it?
hitchhiker?
No,
No, before
Unisender.
that.
Oh, Unisender.
Mhm.
That's it, the Unisender. I
Yeah,
tried that once. It
which
scared the hell out of me.
which was made by Rock Exotica, wasn't it?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
So what it did have, it was, yeah, that was that, that really was a kind of precursor to the, well, almost more to the zigzag, really, in the way it's
Mhm.
designed.
I thought it might have been the first one, but was it done specifically for arborists, or was that a caving thing?
I think if I remember correctly, it was pretty much an arborist tool.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Yeah. But Tom was always, again, Tom was one of those people, and he's been on the show. Like Tom was always inventing. I remember he took a bit of flack because he wrote an article in TCIA about using crampons for assisting in trees. They weren't quite as damaging as spurs, and he didn't pretend that it didn't injure the tree, but that it provided you a lot of extra purchase, and it was. But no one, it went over a bit like a Led Zeppelin, if I recall. But it was like, he'd wear crampons for ice climbing, right, and in order to have grip, and but he was always trying stuff, right,
Mhm.
and willing to share about it.
Tom was always the original, for what we now call SRS, right? The original.
Yeah.
But what Tom never quite mastered, and I know he tried, hitch-based stuff. He never quite got something that worked, one-to-one load as well as Kevin did with the rope wrench, right? That was very applicable to tree work. The Unisender was partially, but you could always use the Unisender both, and it probably, in my experience, it always worked better as a moving rope system device that you could switch over to every once in a while, for stationary rope. But that's my opinion, not nothing against the
That
device. So, but Tom's been along for the last 30 years, been yelling SRS, right?
Yep, he was one of the ones doing it the most when I first started to become aware. It was one of his actually that he let me to use. One of his older ones that I used in Charlotte, and it scared the hell out of me.
Well, it's a bit touchy, right? Finicky, like,
It's a bit touchy
yeah, it,
until you
Yeah.
get used to it.
yeah.
Yeah, to release it, and then a couple people made some modifications for it, so you could put sort of a mini bollard on the side because it was fine going up. It just got touchy releasing pressure. It
Yeah.
seemed to want it to be like an on-off switch, like it was either on or it was off. There was no shades of gray in there.
No
Um,
modulation.
but I mean, a lot of people have said that of Hubert's stuff. The ART, the original lockjack and stuff. A lot of people said that there were, but and I used the lockjack for a while, and I found that too. Like there weren't enough shades of gray in there for me for a mechanical device. It was either on or off for me, and that's probably just my big ass, dumb, clumsy hands. Nothing against the tool.
Yeah.
So I could see that, and then I know people have made some modifications, and then it is interesting the evolution, right? Because Paul Cox had the you just said it, the hitchhiker,
Yeah.
came out, which I guess there's another one now, but it was the only climbing device that can work under full tension. Everything else has to put roughly a 90-degree bend in the rope. But the hitchhiker was the only one that could work under full tension, which is interesting when you think about it.
Yeah.
And it had the friction below the hitch versus above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also unique because it had that dog bone kind of thing
Right.
underneath it, right?
Yeah, because we were screwing around once with Lucas Drews, great climber out of Michigan, and we were doing some rigging research and stuff. But anyway, we decided, so he went up on his rope wrench, and I took the GRCS and took tail of his rope, and we had a dynamometer, and we measured the amount of force I was putting on the tail of his rope until he couldn't come down anymore. It was about 250 pounds. So essentially, you can get stuck in a tree with some of these, stationary rope devices if there's enough weight on the bottom of it, but you can never get stuck with a hitchhiker, which is interesting from a rescue standpoint. It's just a unique feature. I don't think a lot of people have given it credit for, and how it works and how it generates its friction.
Well, I think arborists tend to not think of, it's what you're talking about, Nora, the height of the tree, and it's the amount of rope below. Like that was the thing with the Petzl stop, why they stopped making that. I think they stopped making it, but because on long descents, like 500-600 foot of rope of 400 or 500 feet of fall, it wouldn't activate. It didn't. The weight of the rope wouldn't allow it to kink, so it couldn't stop. So you would just keep descending till you got the rope got light enough, and then it would stop you, right? And we don't know what that's like because in trees, the highest we're going to go is maybe 350, maybe 400 feet, right? So we don't know what it's like to have that much fall below us, like a mountaineer might or a caver would, right? So it's always that low and slow application. But like, how do you know? I remember talking to rope rescue guys in Toronto that they had ropes in the CN Tower, and it's they got 1,500-foot fall, right? So that's a lot of rope hanging there, right? And they let the fire department wanted to go in and practice rappelling. So they didn't want to go way up to the top. They just wanted to go 100 foot or 200 foot up. So they started, but the ropes were 1,000 foot above them. And when they clipped their device on and stepped off the ledge, the rope stretch dropped them 80 feet before it even would hold them.
Oh, yikes.
Right. So it's like it just the whole concept of distance and what cause and effect of that is quite interesting, right? And I've only experienced it a few times when you drop that rope in a big Sitka spruce or a big fir that I've climbed, and you hear that at the end, like your rope doesn't even it's 80 feet, 90 feet off the ground, and you're at 200 some foot. Your rope feels like a hunk of cable. Like it's just it's just taut, and it does change how your stuff works.
I bet. Well, I've only been 100 feet up.
Hickory or an oak.
It actually was a loblolly pine
Oh, yeah.
in an arboretum here. We sometimes get to work at the gardens and arboretums, and those are fun.
Interesting. Yeah, I forgot about the hitchhiker. Or I mean the unisender. Yeah, that's a.
Yeah.
Are they still? Can you still get that? I don't even know.
I don't know.
I think you can.
Probably.
I think you probably
Probably.
can. Yeah, I think you can. That might change. I don't know.
I also got at one of the TCIAs in Charlotte, an Italian arborist that I know named Giorgio Fiori. He's a trainer out there too. He's a big deal in my mind, and I think in other people's minds too. But he doesn't speak English.
Right.
But his wife Rosa does. And he gave me a prototype that he was making that was similar in function to rope wrench, but also had a spring in it. And I believe he eventually got that made properly for the industry.
Okay.
For Europe. And I still have my prototype, and it works great.
It's always fun when you get something that's no one has. There's something about that, isn't there?
There is. I'm really I'm really like, even though I'm still using my original rope wrench that has my name in it, I almost don't want to use it because if I lost it or it broke or something, I'd be heartbroken.
Yeah.
Because it was what we called one of the dirty 30.
Right.
One of the first ones he made for other people out of metal.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember them. I don't have one, but I remember being in Chicago and him asking, and we had to have a special meeting of the technical committee, which I was part of, for him to show us what he was doing. And it wasn't even it was a piece, it wasn't, it was like there was nothing like the wrench as it exists now. Even the Dirty 30 didn't exist yet. And, we were pondering it like, well, and he was demonstrating it to us kind of in a secret spot. And, we were trying to decide whether, like, do we allow this? Like, what is this? He was using a part of a ring, I think it was, or
Yeah,
a
and a
piece of a figure
revolver.
eight. Hey,
Yeah,
I think
it
it was
was
the figure eight.
a figure eight and a revolver carabiner.
Yeah, that's right. Figure eight in the Caribbean. Yeah. And, yeah, you were there, I think, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to,
Fate revolver.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was giving the function of what the wrench does, right? And,
Yeah.
he had stopped using an actual wrench, which is how it kind of started, right? It was cool because it was like, whew, what? Wow, it made sense. It worked. Unfortunately, he missed a meeting or something, and he never got a chance to showcase it there, because we had agreed to let him use it,
Hmm.
and then he missed a mandatory meeting and couldn't end up competing.
Oh no.
But he'd already been approved, and it's funny how that's probably a story a lot of people don't know, right? Like, we as a committee, we looked at it and we just said, you know what, we're going to let it go. We're going to let you use it. We're going to let you use it. And we just took the chance because it made sense. And we were like, okay. And then he missed a meeting and he ended up not even being able to showcase it. So, it was, weird. I don't know if you remember that, Tony.
Oh, I
Yeah.
remember it very well. Yeah, because I was the head tech for the work climb that year,
Yeah.
so I had to be in to make sure that I knew what he was setting up. And then, yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand that version of the story. Um, it had the fact that he didn't compete with it at that competition had nothing to do with the system. It had everything to do with
Yeah.
Kevin not making the climbers meeting Friday night when it was that's been a rule at ITCC. I don't know if it still is to this day, but for the 21 years I was involved, that was like you got to make the Friday night's
Yeah.
climbers meeting or you're not climbing. I mean,
And
it
there
was
was
like
no
chipped in
exceptions,
stone. Um, no exceptions for it. And Kevin just didn't make it for whatever those reasons were. I'm not criticizing Kevin. It just he didn't make the meeting. And that was like I said, there weren't too many things that we wouldn't work around. I mean, I don't remember why he didn't make the meeting, but it was. We talked a lot about that when Andrew was on the show because Andrew was involved in a lot of that. So if anybody's listening and wants to know that, the more in depth on that story, we had a great conversation with Andrew.
Yeah. 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 Because there was that was a evolutionary time period, where lots of change took place, and the there was more awareness brought to potential liability, and what then other things were happening at other competitions. And when you're on those volunteer capacities at ITCC, particularly ITCC, you bear quite a responsibility for nothing happening, or hopefully nothing happening, or certainly nothing negligent occurring. And so you really got to look at it. And I don't know that everyone always understands that. But anyways, like you said, I think we did talk about it at length with Andrew.
Yeah.
But Nora, you
Mhm.
how many times did you compete? Or when did you do you help at comps, or did you just?
I spent. I've been a judge more. I've only competed well, only two times properly, but also there was this competition in Florida called the Geezers.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
still exists.
yeah.
I did that a few times when it was fun. Um, it's probably still fun, but it's actually a really competitive tournament
Really?
because some of the biggest name, some of the really tough climbers, you have to be 40 to compete in that. But you get Rich Hattier and some of these other guys who just hit 40 and they could win a Masters in any tournament, not that one. And it became a super competitive tournament, and I just said, nah, I'm not doing it. But I was involved in a lot of comps. I was head judge for Charlotte for 3 years. And that, before COVID, that was one of the premier competitions in North America. And
Okay.
I was the head judge on that, and that took months of prep for me
Yeah.
and lining up about 60 volunteers
Yeah. Wow.
and planning the events and finding the head judges and then going to Charlotte to set up the tree, help set up the trees.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a big job.
It is.
Charlotte got a lot of stuff. And I also did Jambo for a couple of years, which was harder than a paying job. It was really intense. I didn't get, I love doing judging at the comps, but I think now I just want to go to them and meet and hang out with the people
Yeah.
that I know.
Yeah. I agree. I feel similarly. Um, Nora, how do you feel that you made quite a significant change? How have trees and or tree people, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Impacted your life?
Well, until recently, almost all the Americans I know are people in the industry all over this continent. I've met so many of the people that I've met online at comps or conferences that I consider my, good friends now. And I'll always want to, well, I'll always be in this industry. I ended up right where I want to be. Um, I stopped doing actual production arboriculture, climbing trees, or whatever we need to do with trees, just in January this year. So over 20 years. So I'm at the age now when sensible people retire from everything. But the company I'm working for, which is Leaf and Limb, has a philosophy that's perfectly in line with what I actually care about. When I started writing in Calgary, I was all about ecological gardening in the suburbs and the urban spaces and just enriching those spaces. And I wound up by luck and some also good planning at a company who stands for just that. And now when I'm getting a bit achy, well, I actually wonder if my brain's slower than my body now, but that's another discussion. But my eyesight's not good. And I thought, I need to be in this industry doing what I care about. But at this company, I can be involved in the kinds of things we do to get the word out. I'm doing mostly writing now, in-house and outward-facing writing for this company because they're very media forward. And in fact, something that I'm sending you guys is a book that this company wrote that I think you guys are going to love.
Okay.
So you'll get that in the mail. I'll show it to you. I know that.
Wow.
I know that. It's a substantial book too. It's a real actual book.
Wow.
Full of stuff. It's basically the whole philosophy of what this company stands for, which is taking care of your trees without wrecking them, because they know before I came here, they no longer were removing trees, just supporting trees, fixing trees. We do a lot of pruning, a lot of fun pruning too. It's way up in the canopy, but we do everything else with trees. We plant trees, we do soil work. So in the I've only been here for 4 years, 4.5 years. No, a little over 4. So everything except remove trees. Climbing them, pruning them, planting them, soil work, some sprays, fertilizers. We make our own compost tea, everything we
Yeah.
make.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I get to go full circle where I wanted to learn more about arboriculture by doing it. Now I've done it for 23 years. Now I get to write about it.
Nice. So you're writing for the company in house and for external viewing. Is there any plans for some type of, I don't know, like book or memoir, or you've been an educator that writes. Do you have any thoughts on that, aspiration, anything we can look forward to potentially without giving up the ghost?
I don't know. Right now, I'm in a really good place getting to talk about the things that I care about most, trees and all the things that go with trees. But I never want to lose my connection to people in this industry too, and I don't think I'm going to. So you think if you guys can think of anything that, because you're right, I love to educate and I love to write about it.
There you keep mentioning your love of trees, but you always bring in the people. It's one of the reasons I our catchphrase is the Human Forestry Podcast, because I don't know, maybe in my semi-retirement and my, with more time to ponder, maybe it's just part of age or whatever, but I really find there's so many parallels, particularly with forests and trees interacting with one another. That is so much we can learn about how we can interact with each other. And have you ever thought of that, or do you ever draw parallels in your interactions with people and how there's similarities to how trees interact with one another?
Well, the more I read about trees, um, trees get their strength in community with other trees. That's where they want to be. It started when Alex Shigo said the trees and the grasses made a deal. When he said it in that talk, he said the grasses said this is our domain.
Yeah,
We have it the way we want it. And then they said, okay, and the trees you're over there, that's your domain. You have it the way you want it.
yeah,
So trees are in community, and I have a really building interest in roots and soil.
yeah,
So tree roots and the soil that they're in is as big a world as the forest
yeah.
above the soil line,
Hmm.
and just as important. And I'm starting to really get, not just know it because I read it, but feel it, get it, that trees should be in forests.
Yeah.
And if our trees aren't in forests, which most of us don't have the luxury of having their own private forest,
Right.
which I do, that we do what we can to make whatever we can more forest like for them,
Correct.
with the soil and the pruning, and say this is how they should be. And we'll do what we can for them because they're not in their community.
Yeah.
And people are like that. People act like they can be rugged individualists, but nobody ever does anything meaningful not in community with other people
Right.
and the support that other people provide.
Correct.
And sometimes, like Mark P said, examples of what to avoid.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The shadow mentors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I 100% agree. And Chigo, you know, talked at length of the underground. What's taken place. It was. I mean, it really was his. Being a mycologist, it was. There's so much connection with the soil and fungi that, I mean, that's their domain, right? If there was, and he would even quip. I don't know if you ever heard him say this, but that it's arguable that trees are just the woody extension of fungi.
Uh, I haven't heard that, but what I've long thought and taught is that as flowers and insects dance an evolutionary dance, fungi and woody plants dance an evolutionary dance, and they need each other.
100%.
Co-evolve.
Yeah.
And
And I think it's the same, like you said. I really liked what you just said about us as humans. It's the same. We need those connections above ground, below ground. To with interspecies to share resources with one another. And in a tree sense, it's there's micronutrients and there's things they can't get without these connections. And I think it's the same for us.
it's true. I don't think I'm more of an introvert than I'm definitely not an extrovert. I'm a social introvert, but my life is enriched when I hang out with the people that I care about. And there's no doubt about that. And the best way to do that is outdoors with those people. But I guess maybe that's probably a big factor why tree work, where I thought, you know what, I want to do this for a living. I'm at the age where most people in the industry stop doing it, and I decided I want to start doing it. It wasn't just being in trees, but it was also the people. And I've always worked with excellent people. I worked with 3 companies now and 5 years with Chip, which were so much fun because we got to work at our pace, learning SRT, which was new to me at the time. I didn't have to like worry about what people were thinking or how they were looking at me because it was just us two and the trees. And so I guess I had 4 stints in arboriculture and 4 different companies then. And a couple of times, 3 or 4 times, I worked with, like, say, some of the people I've met in the industry in BC, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, and came out and worked a week in other companies and met those people. So, how different people do it.
Yeah.
And how much we all do it the same. It's like, oh man, we do that too. But then you learn some new thing. You go, how come I never saw that before?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that's all part of the interaction, right? And being, and then that open mindedness and willingness to learn and to observe. Contempt prior to investigation is probably the biggest, disservice you can do to yourself, right? It's always worth a listen and a try potentially. I remember Tim Ard, when he would always say, "Don't believe a word I say. Try it for yourself. I'll demonstrate it. I'll show you, but until you've tried it, you aren't going to really know."
You have to do it. Well, you both of you are lifetimers in this industry, right?
Yeah, basically. I mean,
I feel like
I never planned. I got in it really flukily. I was in Calgary and I was looking for a job. I got 2 job offers. One at Fed Co-op in a warehouse, which was like really good pay, and I also got offered a job at Green Drop. I applied at both. And Green Drip was outside. I got a truck and I was like, I don't want to be in a warehouse. It was summer. And then I got laid off and they had a tree department and I moved into there was a guy that did all the country accounts for the lawn stuff that had a big truck and he left early for some reason and they needed someone that could drive that truck and I knew how to drive a split axle and being from the farm. And so I took the country job, which I was quite happy about because I wore my cowboy hat and my cowboy boots, like what I could leave them on. It would fit in. But that turn of events put me in touch with the tree department because I had to fill up the diesel pumps and they had to show me where they were. And I had to haul raw product and mix fertilizer because I had a big tank truck. So I had to learn some of the ropes that the regular lawn sprayers didn't learn. I had to work with the tree guys. And in that interaction, they discovered that I was at the U of S and I learned from these old nurserymen because I worked at the nursery at the U of S and they were like, oh, Dieter and Bob, holy moly, you should be in the tree department. And that whole thing just catalyzed into they couldn't put me in because it was reserved for people that had been with the company a while. And I was new. So they're like, just come back next year and maybe the next year we'll get you in. Well, one of the guys didn't want to go to school. So now they're like, let's send that new guy. And that's how I ended up at Olds College and at first learning about Shigo. And that was 1988, 88, 89. And I never looked back. I've never left the trees since. And it was just totally, I guess, clandestine or predestined. I don't know how you'd want to put it. Now, Tony, on the other hand,
I was trying to get out of the industry when most people were at the age they were trying to get in. I'm like, I've had enough of this. I'm out of here.
But you were born
But,
into it,
that
right?
didn't work. Yeah, I grew up with it. My dad shifted from forestry to arboriculture the year I was born, so I've always known it. And it's not that it. My father never owned a tree company. He worked for Bartlett Tree for 20 some years, but it was always much more of a lifestyle than just job and paycheck. My father was just that way. He needed that sense of community too, and so I've always known people that climb trees, and then I have two older brothers, both of which were at that point, when I was in high school doing tree work, and it just seemed to be the path. I'm like, no, I'm getting out of New Holland, Pennsylvania before I get my girlfriend pregnant and either end up working at the Blockbuster or doing tree work for the rest of my life. I'm out of here. So I left. Well, it would have had a little more sustainability, but you don't know those things when you're
you never can
20s.
tell. Well, I came to Calgary with a geology degree, and I worked for TransCanada Pipelines for darn near 20 years.
Wow.
10 years as a geologist, but in the office, and 10 years in natural gas marketing, which is not a fun life, but I did learn a lot.
Right.
I couldn't figure out for a long time. I thought, I like the pay. I damn like the pay. I actually like my job pretty well. Um, I really love my coworkers. Why don't I want to be here? Finally dawned on me I didn't want to sit 25 floors up in a cubicle.
Right. Yeah.
Prayed for layoffs. Finally got it. And just wanted to stay outside.
Yeah.
And that's what I proceeded to do.
Yeah. And quite the journey it's been. It's quite fascinating. Yeah. I mean, Tony, your return to it was also quite not really intentional, was it?
No, not really. I mean, it was a skill set I had, and my brother needed help because he was starting a tree company, one that still runs. And then, I have a degree in philosophy from Penn State University. Like people laugh though. I use that degree every day. Quite honestly, I do. Um, but yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was in the military for a while and got around. I think that I originally got into tree work because I also was just mature enough in my 20s to realize that at some point you have to make a decision. Are you going to send up some piece of shit drifting around doing everything? Um, so I just decided, well, my brother needs help. This is a skill set that I have for now, and I'll stick with it. And then I ended up, I think, and I tell people all the time, we've talked about it on the podcast before. I think I stayed with it because of the people and because of the community, because that I hadn't realized it at that point in my life, going through my 30s and whatnot, because of my military experiences and things that I really needed that community, and I was getting that from arboriculture, and it allowed a total introvert like me to basically essentially work by myself but not be by myself, right? Which was good. Yeah, I just stuck with it. At some point, you just got to say, "Hey, this is it," and go for it. And I mean, that started to write the books because I thought I think that, and when I wrote the books, I hadn't realized it, but I really wanted to I wanted other people to see the community of people that is arboriculture, starting with a climbing competition, and the second book going into family tree companies. And there is a third book. There was always meant to be three. I just haven't gotten it. Well, it's
Ah,
written in my head. Didn't put it on paper yet.
do
And
you
no,
think in full
One of these days.
sentences when you write? I do.
Oh yeah, yeah. Really, really long sentences. My editor gives me a hard time. I love punctuation, right? Well, punctuation, it's the difference between let's eat grandma and let's eat grandma. I mean, it's
Oh,
punctuation is everything, right?
um, you
So
both have written books. I would like to, if I just can imagine that people will be sitting there listening. Hey, how do I get the book? I don't know if the books that you have written, Nora, is there any possible way of still getting those books?
probably not, but Alberta would be the only place because they were regional for that zone.
Right.
Um, yeah, probably.
They may not even be printed anymore, maybe.
Well, they're probably not printed anymore. You'd have to get it secondhand. My
Right.
boss bought one off, I don't know, secondhand. He goes, I found your book and I bought it for my kids.
Wow.
Because it was about bugs. It was for gardeners, but
Yeah, I
it
remember.
was intended for anyone who liked insects, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had a copy of it. And then Tony, yours is I don't know if we've ever told anyone where to get your books.
the second book you can still get as an ebook on Amazon. The paper copies you can only ever get from me, and I just haven't printed any. The first book, I had to republish. You'd probably find some secondhand copies around. The one thing I discovered about book sales in arboriculture is like that I probably sold personally, like going to trade shows and training conferences, maybe 400 books, but I bet three times that people read it because you just give the
Yeah,
book to the next arborist and they read it. Which is I hadn't realized that's what happens, but that's what happens. So there might be some floating around. I have intents of republishing, and I just don't have a home for them right now. I don't have like an online home. I don't know where to put them. Right. I don't want to just republish them. And now I don't have a problem with Amazon, but I'm not a huge
right.
Amazon fan either. I'd rather you just go to a website somewhere and buy it. For like, but I don't know. I figured out I believe with those things. I believe in universal timing. It'll happen when it's supposed to.
Well, I think universal timing must have played a role in your journey, Nora.
Well, I have no regrets. I think back on my life of the times in my life where I had to make a decision at the fork in the road. And I know that my life could have been like 7 ways different than it is now. And I don't have regrets at all. Even starting a career like this at a stupid age. I have zero regrets.
So, and understanding potentially, I'm making some assumptions here that there may have been times that were less than ideal. However, they helped form and shaped you, and you are today, and therefore no regrets.
There's no point having regrets.
No,
What if I decided that coming here is too big of a step? I should have not. It took a financial toll on me to make that decision. I had to make certain decisions and agreements that cost me money.
right,
And I think if I had not done this, I would have regretted not doing it.
right. That would have ended up being a regret,
It could have.
right?
But the thing is, you never really know. You have a journey, you make your decisions,
Yeah.
and maybe, who knows, maybe back when I had the chance to do a master's, I was offered a chance to do a master's degree for fairly tough but well-known geologists to do a master's degree in geology and stay in Ottawa and stay in geology. If I had done that, I'd probably be some geologic academic somewhere, and I'd be thinking, wow, isn't it good that I did this? Because I wouldn't know all the other things I could have done.
Right.
But I've always been drawn to, I think my instincts are right because I wanted to be, in the end, outside. And I just feel in my gut that I ended up in the place that I would have been the best. Even though I think those other paths, I'm an optimistic person. I would have seen the good in almost anything that I tried, but I really feel like the path I chose was, maybe fate's real. Maybe I'm wrong that I had many paths. Maybe this was the only path.
Well, I think what I'm hearing in it, and what I think I choose to believe at this point, I think is that you have the having an optimistic, as you mentioned, or an attitude of gratitude to whatever state it is, like, and the willingness to accept it, like, don't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it, right? It's just, you learn from it. It's not something you dwell on. You also, don't bemoan the future, which is unknown. It's living in the moment and accepting what is right now, and however, whatever it is that got you there, if you're able to do that, then regret doesn't really enter into the picture, and it isn't about it. You end up in a situation like you are, like, well, maybe well, I'm here and I like it, so maybe this is where it's always meant to be. But it's really about kind of an acceptance, I think, and gratefulness to, and seeing that the good in what you learned, like, yeah, it cost me money, but here I'm at now and I'm happy where I'm at. You're not lamenting that decision to have lost something financially.
No, because if I had decided I was going to play it safe, I would have regretted not doing what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
The only actual regrets that are real regrets that I've had in my life are the way I've treated other people
Mm,
or animals or situations.
interesting.
I don't really have regrets about what I've chosen to do. I mean, I've had lots of times where I go, dumbass,
Yeah.
how are you thinking? But they weren't life changing. I mean, some of them could have been, but they weren't. My only real regrets is how I may have treated somebody
Huh.
or a situation or an animal.
Interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm not a vindictive person, so I never really tried to hurt anybody. But I look back on things and I said, well, why'd you act like that to them?
Yeah.
Why'd you burn that bridge with that person? You didn't have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting concept. Yeah. I like that. It's got me thinking, that, yeah. And even those, the way you're telling it, it sounds like they've been learned experiences, like you've drawn from them, despite the, you know, despite that, you've still learned from it.
Yeah, actually, I have a mantra that I don't know if mantra is the right word. I have something that I tell the new people when they're thinking about what they're going to do in a tree and they're about ready to say, "Oh, fuck it, I'm just gonna whatever." There was a show on in Canada for a couple of years. It was for girls, but it was called Being Erica, and she got to do these instant things in her life. She had this like magic psychologist where she could go back and address a regret. Thing is, they didn't always turn out well when she tried to fix it. In some episodes, she fucked it up worse. In other ones, she made it better. In other ones, it was just some different outcome. And I tell the young people I work with, I said, when you're at that stage and you're in the tree and you know you're at that stage where you're about to say, ah, fuck it, I'm just going to do this, but you know it's not the right thing to do. I say, there's times in your life when you've gone and you rewind yourself back to that place where maybe you hurt yourself or someone else, or you said something to someone, and you wish you could go back to that place for the rest of your life and do the thing you know you should have done at the time. I said, you can do that in real life, but you got to do it then. I said, when you're about ready to say, fuck it, I'm just going to let it fly, or I'm just going to do this thing. I'm not sure it's safe, but I bet. Don't. Just say, do I want to come back to this thought, this place in my life every day and wish that I hadn't said, just fuck it. And I will stop myself sometimes and go, yeah, you know what? Do you really want to sit in your wheelchair or whatever and think that you wish you hadn't said fuck it right there that day, that time and place that I can remember with absolute clarity?
Yeah.
I don't. Right now.
Well, and having, the awareness to observe it when it's happening and then to take action. I think
Exactly.
that is really a sign of, that's I think a sign of maturity and to some degree accountability, right? Where you're taking accountability or awareness of your actions and your thoughts and then choosing an outcome that's purposeful, because the fuck it button is kind of almost
We
the
all
easy
have
way
it.
out. It's almost the easy way out, isn't it?
We all done it, and even knowing better, we've all done it
Yeah.
and gotten away with it.
Yeah.
But I try not to do it.
No, that's a
And I've been fortunate that I've never had to sit somewhere and gone, damn it, I wish I had just done the thing I knew I should have done at the time I should have done it.
yeah.
And I don't need a magic psychologist to rewind me back there.
Well, and you don't have a regret over making that choice because you knew you have that intuition or gut instinct, if you will, that it was the right thing, and then actually acting on it. And I think that reinforces your ability to do it in the future. It becomes easier to do.
Yeah. I also tell them a close call is just an accident you didn't have to pay for.
So this is pretty philosophical, Tony. I'm curious what your philosophy degrees got to weigh in on this one a little bit.
Well, what it tells me is that I think the best way to view your past is like your rearview mirror in your truck, right? Um, if you can stare at it and look, but you're really not watching where you're going, so that's going to end badly. But you do need to kind of know what's going on behind you because that's important. And every time you're looking forward and you make a turn and change your direction, the rear view mirror changes too, right? So you can kind of, you know, you can. It doesn't have to be something that you focus on and do. And I think that understanding that, like Nora was saying, that having that awareness to say, is this the moment that I want to rewind to? Um, that takes a maturity, and I think it's and the perspective that a lot of people lack. And I think, unfortunately, the people that have it usually have had some pretty close calls in life, which is, I think maybe one of the things that made my arboricultural career and directed it was the fact that I had not in this industry, but my military experiences. I knew the value
Hmm.
of a moment, because when you live a life where there's nothing guaranteed, including tomorrow, it changes the way that you think about tomorrow, and it changes the way you thought about yesterday. And that's a perspective that I brought with me to tree work. And I think a lot of people have it, and there's a lot of ways to come by it, but I think it gets missed many times. But it's an important perspective, and when people get it, then that's when I think you really cross that line into just being a run of the mill tree person, and you turn into a professional, because now your skill set needs to get geared towards that perspective. I tell people now, it's like, I very like, there's certain tools I won't use, or tools I won't use in a certain way, because when I do, I'm not a good enough climber, right? Um, and so I've learned, like, I've had to change my experience to not take the easy way out, and it's made me a better climber. And I like to believe, and from my own perspective, it's made me a better person. Because now what I'm seeing, and this podcast has really been an eye opening, because it seeing other people's perspective, is now I understand, like, because a lot of people complain about this new workforce and whatnot and all that, but when you go out, and I'm doing a chainsaw training with somebody that's was born well after 9/11. Not only am I teaching them how to responsibly use a chainsaw, I'm kind of teaching them consequence, and how to just be a good person, and to take how to mitigate risk and take chances that are worthwhile. Because there's always risk, right? There are things in life worth taking a chance on. Running a chainsaw ain't one of them, right?
The Arboriculture, I'm full of sayings. I didn't invent this one though. Tree work is hazardous, but it does not have to be dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Shigo would talk about that. He talked about I don't know if it was hazardous and dangerous, but it was because his brother was an underwater welder, which was quite dangerous, right? Electricity and underwater and scuba. And he said that it was all about planning and working a plan. And while it was dangerous, it didn't have to be. Maybe it was hazardous. I can't remember how he put it, but because he was well aware. Alex was well aware of the perils that arborists befall, right? And no pun intended, but kind of. So, and part of me, like, here we are, up in our years, all of us, like, needing glasses and things. Snap, crackle, pop, Rice Krispies every morning when we roll out of bed. Not at breakfast, but just our bones and our joints, right? When I was 20, it was hard for me to fathom this to some degree, and how much of it is, how do you impart that into that young person's mind, the 25, the 26, that's bulletproof and 8 feet tall and like just doesn't feel anything, like, yeah, it might be easier, but I can do it, no problem. And it's going to come back, but is that just part of our journey? Like a sapling can get stomped on by the bull moose and gets the top chewed off of it, and yet 100 years later, it's the king of the forest, and who knows what happened to it, right? Like, is that just life?
I don't know. I know that I think it happens in sports, some of the arborists who are very physically agile had the shortest careers because they pushed it and hurt themselves in ways that they wound up with chronic injuries. I'm still doing it because I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, I was old enough. I mean, maybe it's good I didn't start this in my 20s, but at my age when I started, you learn a natural amount of care the older you get because you bumped yourself, screwed yourself up so many times that you just know better.
Yeah.
So I haven't really injured myself in tree work because I'm smarter than that. And the young ones who are just wanting to, like, yeah, it's fun to play, but you can hurt yourself in ways that limit your ability to do this work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So take care of your body,
Yep.
Get one.
Well, there's always a generation that's there to speak the wisdom and impart it. And, I hope in some ways, even this podcast and the listeners that one day listen to it, either realize they've got to that place, or maybe even, someone might hear just the right thing in a younger stage of their career to go, you know what, I'm going to, like your lesson or example. I really like that of, like, it reminds me of the moment between stimulus and response, that Viktor Frankl quote, right? Where we have that choice between stimulus and response. Like, what are we going to do? We've been triggered or stimulated by something, and now what the response? Am I going to punch? Am I going to run? Or am I going to think about this? Like, and in that moment is where the decision's made, right? Of what am I going to do? The moment between there is, and I also heard recently from a meditation. I always mess up his name. Thich Nhat Hanh. He's
Oh,
a
I just read one of his books.
he's amazing, and he says the moment. Everyone wants to know what is staying in the moment. The moment is the time between inhale and exhale. That's living in the moment. That is as close as you can get to defining your moment. From when you stop inhaling before you exhale, that's the moment you're in. It's all you know you have. Which I thought, like, wow, that's a pretty narrow. You can hold your breath and extend it a little bit.
But then you're thinking about holding your breath.
Yeah, right. But it really narrows the focus, which I find is quite fascinating. Yeah, I love his meditations. I haven't read it.
Yeah, I'm not a naturally patient person, but tree work has taught me patience. Um, all my shitty things I've done is because I haven't been patient and I've gone fuck it and I haven't sorted my gear out. I'll tell you one of the best things though, like shit, my husband taught me. He goes, and he's a good throw liner, and I've never been a good throw liner because of my impatience. I'm a whiz with a big shot now, but I was never that great at hand throwing. He says, 90% of it is just rope. It's just line management. He goes, always be rigorous with the flaking of your line
Yeah.
and the care of your line and your repetitiveness. And you know what? That has saved so much agony compared to other people, even people better throwers than me. I don't really get my line tangled up. I
Yeah.
don't get it stuck that much because he taught me really
Yeah.
the part that is the time suck, and it's patience.
Yeah.
Patience. Rope management is not just experience, but it's patience too. Don't like the new climber is like, oh, I'm just going to take my rigging rope with me, and I go, I don't think you want to do that. It's not going to. I'm going to sort it out, and then all right, you can drop your rigging rope. I can give it to you where you need it, or you can drag that whole rope up and put it where you want it.
Yeah.
Patience.
Drag it through the
It took
tree.
me a while to learn patience, to be patient as a climber, because I'm always worried that I'm not going fast enough. I'm not doing things right. The more impatient I get, the worse it gets.
Well, and that really comes down to worrying about, I mean, partly judgment or what others are thinking too, right? Which is another lesson.
Oh, being in your own way? Yeah, that's actually huge. And I thought it was just me. And I find out that's overwhelming for most people,
Yeah.
at least when they start. All the new ones are listening. I'm sorry, I don't think I was fast enough. You're fast enough. Fine.
Yeah.
You'll get faster.
Huh. Yeah. Interesting. The production thing, right? It's interesting that so many people leave private industry in order to escape that pressure, right? And they end up at a municipality or a union corporation of sorts where that somehow seems to disappear. Interestingly enough,
They allow a reasonable pace at the company I work at. They want you to be efficient, but they don't expect you to. They expect you to do things right, and they expect you to do them safely. And we have a super strong safety culture like I've never seen anywhere else. People are. We have a culture where you write yourself up for what you did, and we put it on Slack. This is our company communication. It's called Plans Gone Wrong. You have a plans gone wrong, you just write it up there. What did I do? What should I have done? And then
interesting.
we review them all every month.
That's cool.
And people are into owning that.
Plans gone
And I
wrong.
don't think I've ever seen that anywhere else.
Yeah, instead of accidents, plans gone wrong. That's interesting.
They call it plans gone wrong.
Yeah.
As I said, sometimes the close call is a scarier thing. Like if a ladder slips off your truck on I-40 but doesn't quite come off and you're able to go to the side and put it on, yeah, that was a close call, but it could have resulted in fatality if it didn't come off the road. So that's very serious. So we treat all these things as very serious.
That's an interesting. Have you ever heard that, Tony? A plan's gone wrong.
We decided that we wanted to call it that after mulling it over
Yeah,
for
it's
a
cool
while.
because it plants the seed that you should be planning everything as well. Like an accident is an unplanned event, but a plan gone wrong, right? Whereas if something happens and you realize you didn't have a plan, that was the mistake.
Maybe that was a mistake.
I
Yeah.
didn't even have a plan for it, right?
Yeah. Well, there's 40 people in the field, and every one of them is willing to write themselves up on a plan gone wrong.
That's interesting. I like that idea. I like the terminology. It's an interesting way to look at it. Well, it's been a great podcast. We're always it. We don't have a set time period, and we I think the longest we've gone is I don't know how long, but I don't know. Bio breaks and all those sorts of things start becoming necessary, and uh, I don't know what to ask anymore. Is there anything you want to ask us?
Oh boy, I'm terrible when somebody asks me to ask questions.
Fair enough.
But I'm getting better. In my writing, I'm learning to interview people, so I'm going to get better at it. Well, I hope that I haven't been back to Alberta for a really long time. I hope that when I come back, that you'll have something on that I can go to.
Yeah, or if nothing else, like well, there's always stuff happening. Like I'm not around as much on the courses, but I'm around. So at least a coffee or get together would be awesome.
That would be cool.
No problem.